Welcome to another World's Hype video, and this one will be a little different, because I will be interviewing myself, by popular demand. Unfortunately, contrary to popular demand, there will be no gimmick. I know it was asked for, but I just can't do it. You should already know who I am, but if not, I'm Saikonn, Tengu aficionado, yapper extreme, occasional YouTuber, and the innovator of the format, in my humble opinion. I've been playing from 2004 to 2006. And it took a break for 3 years and returned when the Duelist Genesis was the latest set. I kept playing until around where Necros got banned out, and then I quit, and since then I returned only to retro formats, first Edison, then Tengu, thanks to Quinning and the Paprika respectively. I like Yu-Gi-Oh! In basically all its forms, the anime, the manga, the lore, the cards, as if that wasn't a given. I obviously prefer Tengu the most out of all formats I've played, but I definitely like Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole, even though that might not be the outlook you have of me, considering this channel has exclusively been talking about Tengu. In the future though, that might change. No, this is not becoming an Edison channel. How did I qualify for Worlds this year? I qualified by placing second with GNX in the first World Championship qualifier. After that I won 2 TTCs back to back, before proceeding to sack out of tournaments with Karakuri, do nothing, lose all my rating, and then I didn't play basically at all until the end of the season, where I placed second with GNX again in the TTC finals. And I guess I did pass down to Spike that tournament. It's possible I knocked someone out that would have had a chance otherwise, so maybe I gatekept, but I wouldn't really count it as that. Who do I think will win Worlds? Well, me of course. But on a more serious note, I'd say that the obvious choice is Himne. Like, there's no doubt, is it? He's the best. He plays among the best decks. Not the top tiers ones though, but the best ones. Different things. If I can't go for Himne, I would also say that Arfio has a pretty good chance. I think he's extremely underrated, great playing skill, good deck choices, innovative takes, all around great player. ProStorm is perhaps the technically highest level of player I've seen. As soon as he abandons the Card Trooper take, I think he has a great chance of winning basically anything. If it's not one of those more established players, I would say that there's a high chance that a player in the breakout season will win. Devatora 93, D. Kirk, Logan Thorne. There are many names here that have not really had the time to shine on the Tengu stage, and I think that in a tournament of this size, that advantage can be pretty crucial. I know what the good players are, how they play and what they will bring most likely, but I don't know them, and that is not to be underestimated. How does Tengu differ in 2025 compared to 2024? There's a lot of differences between the two seasons, and previous interviewees have all more or less agreed that Hero and GK have fallen off significantly. I'd say the fall off also applies to Katsif, which is in part due to Janky and Noel not playing the deck or at all, respectively. Agents have, in my opinion, solidified its position as the strongest deck. We've all seen new upstarts in Dragoonity, various Undyne-based Katsif decks, Infernity and Falcon Punch. Since I would have said this to another interviewer, this was all with the exception of Katsif fall off. Things I've claimed since I started the format, and let me tell you, it feels as good as you imagine when you're vindicated in this manner. For the less gloating and more analytical overview, the format used to be more centralized around back row decks in general. When we look back and see X-Saber was performing better, we shouldn't say people were delusional, but rather see that a deck like that was much better at playing into back row decks which Agents and Katsif pushed to the sidelines, removing the favorable matchup Sabres used to have. The newer crop of decks are all focused on playing hard early, whether that's Infernity building unbreakable boards turn 2 or Dragoonity dropping Virus in your draw phase, or even GNX MST checking you. Agents, of course, has the best tools to deal with both that aggression as well as being perfectly capable of mimicking it itself. I'm of the opinion that most, if not all, of Yu-Gi-Oh's formats tend towards a small selection of decks as strictly optimal, with many decks that either capitalize upon the weaknesses of one of more of those, or at least have the ability to outperform sometimes, if not always. 2024 was more of the Wild West, with 2025 having more consensus regarding the older decks, but the newer decks are yet to find their true position in the meta, if you believe such a thing exists. If the shift can be summed up easily, Hero was considered a big 4 deck, but was outpaced not only by Katsif but by Falcon Punch in regards to World's qualification spots. Karakuri used to be seen as a solid and an established deck, yet failed to do much of anything this year. One final note is the wider exploration of Chaos-based strategies as a whole. I hope it's because Piper has finally been laid to rest, because that card was never good. If we look at it, Pudding's Chaos deck, Alpha EXE's Katsif take, there are more but I'm blanking. Chaos Sorcerer is a good card and can support more than one shell as its core. And now it's time for my favorite question, your favorite question, maybe everyone's favorite question. What is my most hot take about the format? And if you have spent any amount of time around me online, you know my opinions about this and you're not going to be disappointed. Of course it is. Thunder King Ryo is overrated. This isn't some next level mind game long con I'm trying to sell. as I am known for playing decks that are bad into yugioh, and would therefore obviously appreciate a decrease in the card's presence. The card isn't unplayable, and I'd say some decks are even correct to include some number of it, especially stun decks that want to run Envoy and Hero, which both wants and supports the existence of lights. However, splashing lights for Envoy in general is something I'm not a fan of, especially with the Kushano right there next to your tour guide. This applies to Veiler nearly as much as it does to yugioh, but I leave Veiler for next year's hot take. Yugioh is not good into agents. While different versions run different amounts of answers, you can expect at least 10, a full quarter of the deck, not counting Christia, Envoy, Hyperion and Dustshoot, to out it. In addition, their best starter fully blanks it. When people say they need Trooper to beat it, or they side yugioh against agents, it's actually unbelievable to me. It feels like I'm living in a parallel reality. But in the reality we are living in, people are in fact running Card Trooper, which makes yugioh even worse into the deck it's supposed to be good at, and also the most represented and the best deck of the format. I also tend to think people play too many normal summons in general, so before you slot in 3 yugioh into your rogue deck, realize you're essentially pre-siding for TG. Play other cards main and side it to yugioh instead if that's really what you have to do. I was even recently on record saying that I think Jaugen is better than yugioh versus agents, and I still stand by that. And no, this does not mean bring Jaugen main deck versus agents, just that I legit think it's better. And finally, do I have anything else to say? Yes, as always, I do. I watch a lot of different card game content, among other things, and something that Dave from Judging for the Win said really stuck to me. When was the last time someone appreciated something you did? Not a coworker or family member. Obviously it's cheesy to say this for a channel with 86 subscribers as of writing, but as it stands right now, making videos is a lot of work for very little return. I started the channel out of spite to talk about the meta as I perceive it, which was contrary to how many others saw it. The first idea was a tier list, but that is bad content, so I made in-depth videos instead, which then stopped because the meta changed too fast and I can't speak with the same confidence on TG as I can on agents. So why am I making a video right now? Well, knowing there are people out there that can benefit from my skill, my knowledge, and more recently my platform, is enough for me to keep going. So you, yes you, imaginary and sparse watcher, is unironically the reason I'm doing any of this. Good luck at Worlds to those participating. Many thanks to tenguformat.com and all the mod team for the tournaments and the resources you host. And finally, thanks for watching.